here's a section on templates, right? In a terminal, why don't you type PDD space templates space list? So basically, PDD in general, there's one prompt file for every code module. Now, the templates allow you to have multiple files that are generated from a single prompt. And so that first one, architecture underscore JSON, you could type PDD templates dash dash help. Okay, so we just saw like a list of them. There's only two templates. And the idea, of course, hopefully that there'll be more templates in this. So you could do PDD templates show, and then copy the string up there from architecture underscore JSON. Just copy the entire string. So this tells you kind of like what the output looks like. And then, so this kind of tells you the things that it uses. The one thing is you have to have a PRD file. And a PRD could be pretty much any format, right? What I also recommend is like a tech stack. What kind of tech stack? Do you want like Next.js for the front end? You want Python for the back end? Whatever it happens to be, right? And then you can include a bunch of other stuff. But the minimum is you have to have a PRD. But I actually recommend having a tech stack, right? This templates command allows you to kind of see what templates are available. Right now, there's only two. So what this will do is this will generate the architecture, like a JSON file. And then it would also generate a HTML file so you could visualize it. So you could see what the architecture looks like. So it'll show you how all the modules are connected together. That shows you some examples of how to run it. You see the examples there? That's how you could run it, right? So the process to this, you have your spec, you make it the way you want it, then you generate the architecture. What this does is PDD will basically partition the system to multiple code modules, okay? Like front end, back end, and then what are the modules in each of them. And then what you need to do is you need to make sure that architecture is what you like, okay? And you could use like Cloud Code or you could edit manually. But in case there's something complicated, you would sit there and you iterate on the architecture, make sure you like it, right? And in the future, we want to actually have like an architecture editor. But right now, it's like a big JSON file. So it's a little bit of a painful process. But once you have the architecture that you like, right, of how it partitions all the files, then you could use PDD generate dash templates to generate the prompt files for each one of these. So then you could generate all the prompt files inside of that. And then what you need to do is you need to look at all the prompt files and make sure that it's meeting your expectation, that it's doing what you wanted to do. So you kind of get that. So for PDD, the idea is you operate at the spec level, the architecture level, and then the prompt level, right? You make sure all three of those levels are what you want. Then once you're good, then you do PDD sync and you should join everything else.
Yeah, I think I get the general architecture. I did have a few more questions.
Sure.
I guess the spec file is pretty standard. So, right, my first question was actually related to specs.md file. So, for designing this file, I guess we just have to follow the prompting guide that is also given
No,
in the
no.
repository, right?
The only thing that has to follow the prompting guide are the prompt files. PRD doesn't know. The PRD could be any format you want. Yeah.
I
So
see. Okay.
yeah. And same thing with the tech stack. It could be whatever format you want, right? There's no particular thing. What I like to do is I usually like for the spec file, I would sit there with Cloud Code or Cursor, and then I would have it help me write the spec file, right? To get it the way I like it. And then once I have that kind of solid, then I'll generate the architecture. It's actually really important to get the architecture sound. Now, if you're doing something really simple like what you're doing, it probably doesn't matter that much. But as you get to something more and more complicated, then the architecture needs to be much, much better.
I see. I have another question. Okay, so this generates this JSON, but it hasn't yet generated the
Wait,
prompt files for every
no, that's right.
code file.
That's right. So it will generate this JSON file, but it will also generate an HTML file. And the HTML file, you can look at it in any web browser, and it will show you how it partitioned everything. So it's a little bit hard to see a JSON. So this HTML file is nice because you can see how everything's connected together and stuff.
Okay, makes sense. And once we have this architecture and the HTML
In fact,
files,
if you go to the examples, I think I
yeah,
have one in there. Can you go to Arch? Can you go to Arch?
yeah.
Okay. Can you, yeah, so that's what example of one what it looks like. But can you go click on the architecture diagram HTML so you can visualize it? Yeah.
So this is what it looks like.
Yeah, you have your PRD, and that's like the system architecture, right? It would generate all the different code modules, so then you could visualize what it looks like, right? But you can't edit it though here. So we have plans to make it so that you could actually edit it, have like a nice interface you could edit this. Otherwise, you have to sit there and edit JSON, which is kind of tough.
So now we're at the stage of the architecture. How do we go from this stage to the actual prompt files for every
Yeah.
single code file?
Yeah, and you can look at like the tech stack on an example there. You can see the tech stack and order management. You can see on the left-hand side, you can see examples of what those look like.
Oh,
So then, and then I'll get the architecture the way I like it, and then I'll generate the prompts, right? Yeah. To generate the prompts, you use the other template, type list, yeah. And then you could show a PDD template show. Yeah, so you can see how this works, right? So then you can use this to generate all the prompt files. Yeah, I mean, you think it's going to be really simple, but sometimes you have a database, sometimes you have this and that, you have all this kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the minimal example only needs the architecture.json, and then it is able
Yeah.
to generate all of the prompts from that.
Yeah.
Got it.
But sometimes you have endpoints, sometimes you have databases, sometimes you have schema, sometimes, if your thing's super, like your thing has no database, so it's probably not a big deal.
One more question. So once I have all the prompt files, then do I need to use the generate command separately for each prompt file?
PDD sync actually works pretty well now. So you should actually try doing PDD sync. So the sequence is this. You get your PRD, you make sure it's like really nice, really good. Then you generate your tech stack, make sure that's really good, make sure that's good. Then you generate your architecture, you review that, kind of make sure that's right. Then you generate all the prompts and you review all the prompts and edit the prompts and make sure that they're good. Then once you're good with all of that, one thing that's really important is that you have to generate these in a certain sequence. You can't just generate any which way. So you got to generate in a certain sequence. And with PDD, you take the spec and you generate from top down the prompts. But then when you generate the code, you got to go the other direction. You got to start with the one that has no dependency, right? And so you start from the
Mm.
leaf up because these prompts use each other. So you can't generate a prompt or you can't generate the code for something that where it needs a subcomponent. You have to do the subcomponents first. The true vision actually is we want to make it so that PDD sync, instead of having to type PDD sync the module name, you type PDD sync and it does the whole thing. That's what our ultimate vision is, but we're not there yet. So you have to do it manually right now. Like you have
I
to have
see.
PDD sync
So
every code module. And you have to do it in sequence too.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's just what I was about to ask. So I have to look at the dependencies in the architecture JSON, and then based on that, I have to decide the
Well,
sequence in which I should run.
here's what I do, okay? I use Makefiles, right? And so what I do, okay, is I ask the AI tool like Cloud Code or Cursor to write me a Makefile. Okay, so go look at the architecture JSON and then create a Makefile that will do run PD sync on all of them. That's what I do. The way I usually use it is I use Cloud Code or Cursor or whatever to generate Makefiles for me. That's what I do. So that it could do it automatically. So you don't have to sit there and type one by one by one.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
Actually, I have a follow-up question on that. So right now, it seems like how the templates are set up, it's a little general, which
Mhm.
is we could either use a template to generate either the architecture, and then if we like using a template to generate the prompt files. Then having another template for like Next.js, do you mean you would decompose the current templates
No, no.
into?
The idea behind templates is it's basically allows you to do like variable substitution in, right? So you can do variable substitution so you can use it for generating like multiple different things, right? Like different prompts, right? Like the generate prompt template could
Mm.
generate like, all the prompts inside of a architecture file.
Okay, yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Okay, cool. Okay. Well, if there's no more questions, yeah, I look forward to seeing your example. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Bye, everyone.